Okay, so hello, my name is Chinyere Eyo. I'm the Executive Director of Sexual Offences Awareness and Victims Rehabilitation Initiative. For short, we are known as SOAR Initiative. And we basically work with sexually abused children, providing care, support, and helping caregivers, parents, stakeholders know how to address the whole issue of protecting children from sexual violence, as well as raising awareness about it. But I didn't always start out like this. At the age of 4 years, I was sexually abused by my father's younger brother. At that time, I was too young to understand what uncle was doing to me, and I couldn't ask questions. I couldn't even talk to my mother because at that time in the 70s, how do you begin to broach that subject? And so I kept quiet. But 2 years later, down the line, my father brought another of his younger brothers to stay with us. The intention was to bring him up, provide for him, and get him to stand on his feet. But from the very first day, he walked into the house, started abusing me, would put me on his laps and use me to stimulate himself sexually. And that went on until, actual rape began to happen, and it went on for 8 years. Within that period, I became less of who I was supposed to be. I again couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't talk to friends. I couldn't talk to my siblings, and I especially couldn't talk to my mother. I internalized all that happened and felt I was a bad child for allowing this happen. I felt I was a damaged child for it even happening at all. I blamed myself. I had issues with inferiority complex, low self-esteem. I didn't believe anything good could happen to me. I believed I was a bad child, and there were times when I struggled with suicidal thoughts, wondering how everything would be if I probably killed myself. But then again, thoughts of my mother, how will she cope and all of that. So it was a lot for a child to have to deal with, but then I had to deal with all of that. On the outside, nobody would have ever guessed what I was going through on the inside because I found a way of masking it all in. I got into the university, before that I had gone the whole round, and at a point in my life I came to God and it was like, I can't do this anymore. And then I found hope, I found healing in that relationship with God, and trying to work on myself, trying to be the person that I believed God wanted me to be. Got into the university, but then in my final year, I got raped twice in 2 months. It was devastating. How could God do this to his own? How could he allow this happen? He was to be the protection that I needed, but all of that did not happen. I struggled. I went downward again, battling again with the why is life like this? Am I supposed to live? Is it better I kill myself? The whole inferiority, feeling of worthlessness. Do I matter? But out of it all, I think I would say I survived. I turned to research, trying to find out about this whole thing, and I realized that it was not just a one-off experience for that little child, somewhere in Nigeria, but I found out that it is a global phenomenon, that 1 in every 4 children, 1 in every 4 girls will be sexually abused before the age of 18. Statistics we had at that time. And so I became more curious, and somehow in the midst of all of the pain that I struggled with, I developed a passion trying to help others, who had gone through what it was that I went through, talking to people, listening, counseling. Eventually in 2006, I came out with my story, writing a book, When Life Just Isn't Fair, presented it publicly, and at that meeting, the idea of starting an NGO, to help other children who were vulnerable like myself came up. I didn't know where to start, but then I started. And I am just so appreciative to God, because today I can say countless of children have found hope like I did. You know, because of the NGO SOAR initiative, we've helped also countless more parents understand why children do not talk, how it is never the fault of a child when he or she is sexually abused. In 2015, Nigeria, through the Violence Against Children survey, with the help of UNICEF and a few other funding agencies, came up with the survey, the Violence Against Children survey, which hit home for us here in Nigeria and made us see how prevalent this issue of sexual violence against children is. With our own statistics saying, again, 1 in every 4 girls and 1 in every 10 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18. So it is a phenomenon here. It is bad, you know, but the whole issue of the culture of silence, how children are afraid to talk, they're afraid of being blamed, they're afraid of being told it is their fault, they're afraid of being punished, you know, they're afraid of being called names. You know, sometimes you just feel sorry for the abuser. I had an overly sympathetic conscience, you know, with my uncle. I was like, okay, if I reported, you know, he'll be sent out of the house. Where would he go? How would he eat? How would he fend for himself? And I just felt, you know, I might as well just keep quiet. And so there are so many other children. I thank God I made it. You know, but if you and I do not stand up to help that vulnerable child out there, there are so many others there, like Ochanya, who may not make it if we don't stand up and take responsibility for the children in our lives. I have. Will you? Thank you.